We are your MCs for this event. I'm Nathan Welsh.
And I'm Cassie Levy.
Our first speaker is Lauren Voinovich, a freshman from Hathaway Brown. She's opening our event with what it means to be happy.
Hi, everyone. When I first began my research into happiness and the psychology of the emotion, as well as the neuroscience behind it all, my main question was, what is happiness? I had no clue. And so my first step was to simply look up the definition, hoping it would be that easy. And there is a definition. It says, happiness, the state of being happy. And that was the moment when I realized that if the dictionary was being that vague about my research topic, it was going to be a lot harder to do this than I thought. And so, obviously, I had to widen my search net a little bit. I started looking at academic journals and articles and studies written by scientists and neurologists with fancy degrees and expansive vocabularies. Suffice it to say, I had to use Merriam-Webster a lot more than once over the course of this project. And you'd think by the end of all that, I would have a pretty firm understanding of what it means to be happy. But I didn't. Because you see, all of these really, really smart people all had their own ideas about the one true key to happiness. They spent their lives, or are spending their lives, devoted to finding the one answer, the one way to look at happiness. But what I've realized is that there isn't just one. There's infinite ways. Now, I want you all to take a moment right now to think of a memory that you have that makes you smile, that makes you feel good. Do you have it? Okay, good. So do I. Now, I'm betting that all of us have different reasons why that memory is so important to us that we remember it enough to smile. And that makes sense. We're all different people leading different lives with all different perspectives. And that also means that we all have our own pieces of happiness. Some of us like quiet time with a few close friends. Others are adrenaline seeking, looking for excitement, and so many more. There are infinite ways to answer that question. So maybe the better question to ask is, what isn't happiness? And fortunately, for me at least, research has found that there are more concrete answers to this question. Most notably, that happiness is not a destination. You don't hit a milestone or work at a job you hate for a certain number of years and make enough money to suddenly become happy. You don't turn a certain age and suddenly find meaning in your life. And if you do, and you're around the age of 50, then that's what we like to call a midlife crisis. All joking aside, the preconceived notions that a lot of us have about how to get to happiness can actually be really, really harmful to our ability to be happy. And a lot of us spend a good bit of our lives trying to set it up. And what I mean by that is that we spend a good chunk of our time and energy preparing ourselves to achieve. Whether that's working a job for a certain number of years to earn enough money to retire, or something else. All that really does is waste time. You spend years, 10, 20, 30, 40 years, waiting to achieve happiness. Another thing happiness is not, is that it is not affected by anything materialistic. Happiness doesn't care how much money you make, doesn't care how many houses you have or how many cars, and it doesn't care how you look. It goes much deeper than that, and it's a lot more complex. Who knew? I didn't. And who also knew that it is a complete falsehood that happy people are happy all the time. Now, maybe that's a less common notion, but it is a very impactful and harmful one. Happy people are not happy 100% of the time. They can't be. No one can. And that's probably because of the insane amounts of pressure and high expectations that we put on ourselves to achieve and excel all the time. Now, what controls all of this is the brain. Now, for this talk, I will not be explaining the intricacies of the most complex organ in the human body, but I will be giving you some basic anatomy to help you understand. Now, as you go up the brain, it becomes less autonomic and more human. At the base is the oldest portion of the brain, evolutionarily speaking, and that's called the hindbrain. The hindbrain is in charge of all the things that we don't need to worry about, and even the things that we don't even know how to be aware of. Take breathing, for example. All of us breathe, we have to, but none of us really have to think about it. And that's not magic. That is the hindbrain controlling all the things that we do unconsciously. And then in the middle is something called the limbic system. Now, the limbic system houses all of your memories and all of your emotions. It has a profound effect on your behavior and how you're feeling at any given moment. And that's because it also houses all of the good brain chemicals. I'm talking dopamine, serotonin, endorphins, oxytocin, and so many more. And those are all responsible for that warm and fuzzy feeling that we call happiness. Now, finally, at the top is something called the cortex. And the cortex is in charge of processing information and thought. This is where all your decision-making happens. What to wear to work or school, whether to study or watch Netflix. Any choice that you make, this is where it comes from. And I'm not just telling you all of this to make you fall asleep or to bore you to death. I'm doing this because we all need to understand that all three of these systems have to work in perfect harmony in order for all of us to be here right now, functioning like we do. But there's good news. That does not mean that our relationship to these three systems can't be manipulated. And that also doesn't mean that there aren't ways to affect and change your happiness on a really substantial level. Now, the first key to unlocking an increase in happiness, from what I found from my research, is awareness. Researchers have found that 90% of the brain's processing is done on what is essentially autopilot mode. And that's for good reason. You see, a long, long time ago, humans were constantly in survival mode, relying on instinct and split-second decision-making in order to stay alive. But we don't live like that anymore. Unfortunately, the brain has not quite caught up to us yet. So, we still default to processing information on autopilot. And that's where awareness comes in. Take your morning drive to school or to work. You've done it enough times that you don't even really need to think about it. You have made that neural pathway so strong that all your brain does is focus on the task at hand. But that also means that you're not paying attention to anything else. Do you look out at the world beyond the traffic? Maybe you should start. Try taking the most routine parts of your day, like that morning drive, and mixing things up. Look around yourself. Engage your senses. Enjoy the moment. And a way that you can do that is through connection. Connection is the most valuable thing that you can do to increase your happiness. Research has found time and time again that friendships, relationships, even something as simple as eye contact or a smile, can boost people's happiness levels by boosting those chemicals in the brain that I was talking about. And when you make others feel good, they tend to reciprocate. In the US, we have a culture of just go, go, go. We want to succeed, achieve, and provide as much as possible, but sometimes that comes at the expense of your interaction with others. Maybe that's why the US is the unhappiest it's ever been, according to the 2019 World Happiness Report. So go out and smile. It's such a simple thing, but it has such an important impact in your life and others. Turns out that happiness is contagious. Hallmark has been saying it for years, but research has now proven it. If you connect with other happy people, you're more likely to be happy yourself. Finally, practice self-care. Start appreciating you. Self-care is just as important to your happiness as anything else, because that's where everything stems from. If you do not have the capability to love yourself, you have no business trying to love others. So, excuse the cliche, but go out and smell the roses. And back to that happy moment that you have, start doing more of that. Whether it's spending time with friends and family or doing an activity that you love, build upon that memory with more moments like that. You have the power to change your happiness. And make this sometimes really, really scary, but very conscious and intentional choice to stop living your life like it's a prequel. Go out into the world and start living the story of your life that by the end of it, you can look back at those little moments that made you smile. By being here with you all today, I know that I now have a new memory to smile about. Thank you.